There you go. So in order to distinguish a good application from a bad application, they're increasingly asking for writing samples. I know you're like, I'm not going to be in a field that needs a writing sample. You might be wrong. Plan on it. Prepare yourself to do writing samples. And if you don't already have a writing sample, you should get one. And so this is one of those examples of, this is an opportunity in this American Experience class to develop a writing sample. You probably have one in your field, that's good. You can have one outside your field. So that's how you should treat this. Don't treat this as something you have to do. Treat this as another chance to prepare yourself for the job that you want to do. Something that's going to make you money. If you look at it that way, you'll like the paper a lot more. I could actually tell, I'm preaching to the choir, I could tell that a lot of you put yourself into the papers, you liked it a lot, you seemed to embrace the assignment. But you got to do a couple things. As I pointed out, the papers were pretty good, but they didn't do everything I was looking for. Not all of them embraced storytelling, for example. Now we've got a whole storyteller, we've got a video from this storyteller. You've got some other opportunities to do so as well. Let me see if I can pull this on. There is a storyteller coming in tonight. It is a Cuban-American storyteller, someone who sometimes has been here for Azalea Storytelling Festival, and it's a CE event. So if you need to get a CE credit and you want to get some quotes from someone who can talk about storytelling, go right on ahead. If they don't have something about storytelling that you like, raise your hand and say, how do you do storytelling? How do you make a good storytelling? What makes storytelling special? Ask the questions that you want to know for your paper. So if she doesn't tell them to you, that's what you should do. So that is tonight, and let me get up the information for you. I got a cough, but that's okay. Yes.
What if in the first paper we included, will we try to include?
Oh, just to make sure it's there. But no paper did everything I asked for. If you got a little something about storytelling, expand on it.
So you really want the same paper?
No, I do not want the same paper. Did you see the assignment I sent out last night? Well, then that's what I want, and I'm getting to it. Here's what you need to do. You need to have storytelling work in there. Even something from an ebook, a book, a scholarly journal, something about storytelling, the science behind it. A few people did this. Don't get me wrong, a few people did this. Second, you've got to connect it somehow to the readings we're doing. Rereading America, the film, America, the Story of Us. Freakonomics, any other article that's been done. If you want to do mine, you don't have to, nobody's writing about the Civil War, but maybe you might want to take a look at how I analyzed the Civil War to look at, let's say, a collection of words, which words are used and not used as part of your analysis. If I told you the term word cloud, would you know what I was talking about? Wait, you're kidding. You mean old Dr. Torres actually knows something high-tech that you don't know? Come on, somebody knows what a word cloud is. None of you? Oh, jeez. Wes, you know what they are. Wes is being polite. He's pretending like he doesn't. Remember we did the nomination speech? You know, word cloud, that's where you take something, like you could take the Gettysburg Address, cut and paste it, put it in a word cloud generator, and it'll show you which words Abraham Lincoln used the most. You don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it just looks like a jumbled now.
Yeah, it's all jumbled, but the bigger the word, the more often it is used. You've never seen it? Oh, good Lord. I thought y'all were so advanced. Nah, y'all are. You just don't understand. I'm still trying to figure out the whole apps thing, but now I got a new cell phone. It's not from 2011, so I can actually visit something called the App Store. I'm going to go crazy when I'm here over the weekend at the library downloading all these cool apps. So I can figure out how many calories I'm burning, and then how many I'm eating up when I eat my wife's apple pie, so I can break even. Doesn't it seem like that, all you athletes? Oops. Oh, this is gonna be a bad day. If I can get this right. But anyway, the second thing you need to do, again, to remind you, first off, work in storytelling. Second thing, work in something from the readings. Something that we've covered before. Again, some people did this. Not all did. And then finally, work in the analytical method. That means you've got to set up an abstract theory, vague, generalized variables, just like we did at the beginning of the year, just like the first initial slides. Remember, I told you to download those. Follow those step by step. If you can do that for analytical method, you'll get a perfect score. This is worth 3 of your 5 points on the second version. I've actually got a lot of stuff for y'all to do today on the screen. All right, hang on a second. See if I can get some. I'm trying to get back to a regular screen. To show what's on the and I hit one thing that was like the wrong answer. I just clicked one up. So,
Okay. I gotta wait till it turns purple and then I.
Oh, okay. So
it'll
purple.
take a minute or two. Yeah, when it turns purple or like an amber kind of color.
Okay, yeah, because all it's doing is just flashing red.
Yeah, and that's what happens when it turns off. It's like cooling down.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, just to go on. So that means the analytical method. So point number 3, point 4, and point 5 are all related to analytical method. 3 is the theory. Remember, theories are supposed to be abstract, vague, the variables, very broad ideas. Point 4 is hypothesis, specific. If your hypothesis is a carbon copy of the theory, something's wrong. Because one cannot be a specific version of the other if they say the same thing. We wouldn't have created 2 different terms, theory and hypothesis, for it. All you need to do is follow the directions in the first set of slides, analytical thinking. Okay, is it good to go? Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, round of applause for Lindsay. Bailing out from Dr. Lindsay. So that's one of the most common things people do is they say a theory, and then they say the exact same thing for the hypothesis, which is obviously, that's a big indicator that it's wrong. Second, that people, like the variables are exactly the same, they can't be in the theory and hypothesis. So if you just find yourself saying the same thing over again, you're not going to get a perfect score. And I want everyone to get a perfect score on this. You know, if you quickly write, and most of it is, people are just kind of waiting until the last minute, they just write it up really quick. They're not thinking about it. You got to think about it over time. It needs a little time. That's why they call it analytical, not the quickest thing you ever do. And whatever hypothesis you do is going to be a testable version. It's got to be something you can test. Now that means either writing about how someone has done a similar hypothesis test, or you find a way to do something on your own. We actually had a student who was questioning, the big debate was, it was a student athlete who was having a debate over whether or not being a student athlete hurts you academically. So this person went out, met with the people. Obviously they could get information about how athletes do on scores versus non-athletes. And they recorded the GPA because we calculate that data here at the college. So this person wasn't looking at everybody's GPA, they just looked at summaries. But this person went through the trouble to go over to the administration, asked, hey, I'm doing this for a student research paper, can I do this analysis, and actually looked at a comparison of GPAs. And they actually found that student athletes do, it's not by much, but a few points higher than non-athletes, which was busting the myth that people said that people who are student athletes either aren't as smart or just they have so much time devoted to their athletic skills that they can't do academics as well. So the person was able to bust this myth. But yeah, this is something that involves a little bit of legwork, going out and looking for yourself. Just like I did for the argument about the Civil War. Yeah, I thought it was about tariffs. So I decided to actually look at the reasons why, and I looked at how frequently people use certain words. I was stunned to learn it wasn't about tariffs. I'm a big international political economy person, so I wanted to show my econ class that it was about tariffs. Damn, I was wrong. All the states' rights fans were really upset. Oh, I still think I get email about that. Sometimes it doesn't have to involve statistics. It can be qualitative. Did anybody see the piece that I did about General Nathan Bedford Forrest? That would be an example of a qualitative. That's why I included both of them, to give you ideas about how to do a hypothesis test. You heard of General Nathan Bedford Forrest, right? Founder of the Klan. There's a big debate all throughout the South to whether or not things named for Forrest should be renamed. Do you know about the controversy here? You know that we have a Forrest Street, right? Some of you I've seen walking across it. It's right down there. It may be gone by the end of this year. Oh, you don't know about this? Going to rename. The college has proposed to the city of LaGrange that they rename the street for Nathan Bedford Forrest to be Panther Way. Yeah, F-O-R-R-E-S-T, after Nathan Bedford Forrest. Yeah, that's what it was part of the old Jefferson Davis, Nathan Bedford Forrest highway. Used to come right by LaGrange. You didn't know that they're renaming Forrest?
Nope.
So that very controversy is right past the dorms. You know, it's that street where they have the giant panther paw prints that they painted out there a couple of years ago. Now, when I signed this, I didn't know that was I didn't know that this was going to be an issue this fall. So far, I haven't seen anything about locals complaining about it, but it could be a big issue in the coming weeks, coming days, when City Council actually needs to decide whether they'll rename the street. Take a look at what I wrote about Nathan Bedford Forrest. And again, it's about myth testing. Giving something a fair test. When you give it a fair test, when you really make it as fair as possible, you're not cooking the books on it, you'll be amazed what you find. I was showing Wes one of them because Wes is to be our research assistant, so that's why he was unfortunate enough to come by when I was doing some research. Anybody heard about the National Football League? The NFL? You ever heard about their ratings? That you haven't heard this? That ratings are down for the NFL, and seriously, type out NFL and ratings, and you'll see thousands of articles about it because the NFL released that their TV ratings are down, and instantly it became a big debate over. What do you think? I'm sorry. Why do you think people? What do you think people concluded? Guess whether ratings were down. No guesses.
Because a couple of team has players that will refuse to stand during the national.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick's fault. Because he was kneeling during. And a polling group actually, Rasmussen reports, asked people, and 32% of people said they were less likely to watch an NFL game because of Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national protest. They were mad that the NFL did not suspend or fire him for doing so. And I thought, I wonder if that's the case. I disagree with his decision to kneel for the national anthem. I think he has every right to do so. I don't think he should be suspended or dismissed. I just disagree with it. I'm a big fan of the national anthem. I teach War of 1812. That's where our national anthem came from. So I'm wearing my big patriotic tie. But I don't think it's unpatriotic to take a political position. So I decided to take a look at it because, well, for one thing, I looked and I found that TV ratings are indeed down. They've actually been somewhat declining over time. But I decided to look at NFL attendance because, after all, if you want to go see any Falcons game, by the way, actually, if you go to razorgator.com, so I decided to look, it's like $30 for the remaining to $36 for like a rival like the Saints. It's $30 to $36 for all the remaining games, like the cheapest tickets out there. Unless you want to go see my beloved Green Bay Packers play them. It's $109. It's the cheapest ticket I can find. I'm actually contemplating even with that. I love my pack. I've seen Packers play there like 3 times. See, it's because Green Bay fans travel. So I decided to look at 2016 attendance and 2015 attendance because there's multiple ways of looking at this. Go all the way down here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the total attendance, like when you sum up all of the average attendance, average attendance is 68,273.84 people of 96.7 capacity last year. That's like, 8 games per team. In 2016, it's 68,630 with a 96.8% capacity. So what did we find? Attendance is slightly up. And I mean, if you're paying anywhere from $30 to $100, it's the cheapest ticket in the stadium. That's not cheap. So, oh wait, what team does Colin Kaepernick play for?
49ers.
The 49ers. Okay, let's see. Are they way down here? Okay, they didn't have a team in Los Angeles last year. But see, I got this from ESPN. It didn't take that long. It took me 10 minutes to download it and run the averages. Actually, 10 minutes somewhere because I was talking to Wes about his RA assignments. There they are. They're 12th in attendance. Last year, they were 12th in attendance. So let's see, San Francisco is about 600 people per game less. In a stadium that seats like 70,000. Incidentally, Colin Kaepernick hasn't started a game.
He's starting this time.
This weekend, yeah. That's why I'm doing the analysis. So that could be another form of it. Say, okay, if he starts, will their attendance decline or not? I really don't know. I just thought it'd be interesting to see. But do you understand that this is a hypothesis test? And it didn't take that long to do it. And it's about an issue that's like, it's kind of a controversial issue today. There's more than one way to look at something, right? I looked at somebody, Stanford University had a business person who looked into it. You know what they said? The reason why, I mean, the NFL still, but their overall numbers are slightly down from 2010. I mean, 2016 is a little bit up over 2015 in terms of attendance. The overall ratings are slightly going down. They're still 2-to-1 over baseball when they were, in fact, sorry, baseball players. They were tied, baseball and the NFL were tied in 1985 for ratings. NFL's got twice the ratings of baseball now. Although that could change because the games are getting kind of exciting. Well, how do we calculate ratings? Does anybody know? Anybody been part of a rating study? They ask you which TV channels you're watching. The Sanford person actually figured it out. Nobody knows it. How do you all watch TV? Do you watch TV? Really? Like you turn on the TV? Jacob Wood is shaking his head. What's up, Jacob?
I don't have time to watch TV.
You don't watch that? You don't watch any TV?
A lot of times TV's just like, or it's just on in the background. Like we'll turn the TV on.
You don't watch TV this way?
Watch on Netflix.
Netflix? Do you watch live streaming? You don't? Because see, when I want to see Green Bay on TV, every third game is on TV, like down here. So if I want to watch Green Bay, or I go onto Yahoo and I find a way to stream it. Yeah, more people are streaming events because, as opposed to Cincinnati versus New England, which I could care less about those two. I'm just going to watch what I want to. So the ratings are down, but I'm still watching the game. And NFL polling's revealed that, in fact, the way people look at like the NFL in general, and the players in particular, are actually up over the last couple of years. So people feel better about the players. Some of that could be like the new policing policy. Because in the 1990s, I mean, there were some people who should not have been playing NFL football. But with a personal conduct policy, with people facing suspension for, I don't know, beating other people, and in a few cases in the 90s, killing other people. When people are now dismissed for this or held accountable for crimes, like you could not just be sentenced for a crime, you could actually lose playing time or be suspended from a team. And people have a more positive image of the players. So what it is it's just traditional methods of checking with people. How many of you have been called about an election poll? Raise your hand. Who's been contacted to see whether you support Trump, Clinton, Johnson, Stein? Nobody? Really? Nobody's called your landline phone?
Don't have one.
Raise your hand if you got a landline phone. Do people look at you funny? Yeah, majority of people have these thingies. So if you're not reaching these people, then you're not finding out how to. You're not finding. That's why polling firms are increasingly starting to look more closely at how to contact people who don't have landlines. Online polling. But the moral of this story is, it's not about NFL, it's not about Colin Kaepernick, it's not about cell phones, it's not about streaming. It's about how are you going to test the arguments that you're putting forth. Now, I can see a couple people looking at me right now. Andy's looking at me, Gerard's looking at me, Jordan's looking at me, Jacob's looking at me, all Jacobs are looking at me and saying, how the heck do I test this? How indeed? Think about it now. Most of you already have a paper. It's got be a little bit longer. Sit down with those analytical thinking slides, look at what you've already done for your paper and say, how can I test not the whole truth, but a piece of the truth? Does that make sense? Oh, and by the way, for my analysis, I also looked at college football ratings because a number of college football players are kneeling during the national anthem or having some sort of protest. College football ratings are up. Yeah, they could be down. If they're down, I tell you. If they're up, I tell you. But think about how creative can you be in testing your argument?
I have a question.
Sure.
This isn't like a revision of our already determined.
Oh, it is.
It is?
It's not a revision, though. It's an expansion.
So we're just, okay, so.
You're expanding to include all of these things. So let's say you got a 9 out of 10 on the last one, and you don't change your paper at all. 9 out of 15 is 60%. So this isn't slapping a Band-Aid on something. This is taking your paper and taking it to the next level. If you understand that, you'll get the 15 out of 15. And right now you're looking at me going, but I thought I got a 9 out of 10. Sure, I took it as a percentage of 9 out of 10 out of 15. Your grades will reflect this, right? So if you got 90%, you got 90% out of 15 points. That's what your Connect rate shows. So, but I figured it was your first paper, except for Wes. I think nobody else has written a paper for me. Brandon's written a paper for me. I was going to say, I knew somebody else had it, right? Now's your chance to fix up your paper. So go over the paper, look at all the comments that I made, take it to the next level. Make sense? Y'all with me? Good. What am I talking about today? Oh, that's right, the Klan. Nothing controversial. But Nathan Bedford Forrest, the Klan. So this is it. General Nathan Bedford Forrest versus the Ku Klux Klan. Feel free to agree or disagree. Have y'all read it? And by the way, this is from Memphis, Nathan Bedford Forrest State Park. My wife went to school, the next closest school to her was Forrest Elementary over in Jacksonville, Florida. I haven't found any evidence that Forrest was actually in, but he's a legendary Civil War character. So raise your hand if you read this. I won't look. I heard that from you. It's not confession. Raise your hand if you read this. Okay, put your hands down. Okay, did anybody raise their hand?
Yeah.
Oh, a couple of you? Okay. So why are people dropping the Nathan Bedford Forrest name?
It's associated with the KKK.
So he's the founder of the KKK?
And that's just, I don't know, I just know it's always associated with it.
Oh yeah, he founded the Klan. That part's out there. And so that's one of the main reasons why people are dropping his name. In fact, I found out this when I was a student at Marquette University, which is in Wisconsin. Yes, all you Miami Heat fans, that's where Dwayne Wade went to school. You ever seen the movie Hoop Dreams? Best documentary ever. Not just best sports documentary ever, best documentary ever. Have you seen it, Alex? Have you seen it, Lauren? You should buy it. You should watch it. It's like one of the greatest movies ever, documentaries. In fact, when it wasn't even nominated for best Oscar, or like the best documentary, like an Oscar, most people felt it should be nominated as best picture and win. When it didn't even get nominated for best documentary, there was such an outcry about racism and voting that the Oscars have changed forever because of Hoop Dreams. It's that good a film. I think it's on AFI's like list of like the best films of the 1900s. If you want to watch it, even if you don't like basketball, your eyes will bleed watching. I'm dead serious.
That's a good thing.
You're watching some high school kid who, when you see that his free throw, whether he makes the free throw a lot or not, his entire life will change, then you'll see why. It's not just about basketball. It's about sports. It's about economics. It's about stuff we'll cover in education. I should play it in this class.
You need
I
to,
should.
you need to watch Last Chance You on Netflix.
Really? It's inspired a lot of other really good documentaries as well.
What's the name?
It's called Hoop Dreams.
Let's watch it.
Yeah,
And
let's watch it.
I went to, in fact, one of the players who's featured in it, I went to school with. We graduated from Marquette
I'm
around
gonna
the
watch
same
it
time.
today.
I was about as close as Antiquadarius when he made this behind the back dunk over Marley Dickinson. I was sitting in the pep section. It was before we even knew about the film. So
Yeah, let's watch it.
yeah. You'll thank me later for it. The only trouble is finding the time to shoot.
Today.
But you know, I realized that I didn't have any class on Friday, October 28th, so I think I'll reserve it for that time. It'll take 2, so I may have to take the second class. So drop it because of the Klan. Any other reason? So he founded the Klan. Oh, which side did he fight on in the Civil War? The what?
You said he founded the Klan?
Yeah, he organized the Klan. When I came down, I found this out when I came down from Marquette University, driving down, it's like Wisconsin, all the way down to Florida State University, where my wife was going to school. We were having a long distance relationship. We were the first internet relationship I know of. I think we met each other before then, we just kept it alive by the internet. Because back then it was 25 cents a minute to call.
Good enough.
Pre-cell phone days. 25 cents a minute. Keep that in mind. Yeah, internet was a lot more like Twitter when you sent messages, so couldn't send too much in there, but you could send a lot of messages. But anyway, I stopped on the border of Tennessee and Alabama. at a little motel. It was kind of foggy, so it looked like something out of Mississippi Burning or Ghosts of Mississippi. And I'm wearing a bandana tied around my head. This back when I never had that much hair, but so here I go. And had a shaggier beard, a little thicker beard, and I was wearing a tie-dye shirt, Lowry shorts, and I get in, and a guy looks like he's out of Mississippi Burning too. Huge, bald guy, big, thick goatee, big cigar. He goes, hey, he goes, you know what this area is famous for? I said, no, what's it famous for? Well, just down the road, that's where the first ever Jack Daniel's distillery was. Oh, kind of cool. Okay, I remember that from college. What else? And he goes, well, the courthouse down here, that's where they founded the Klan. And I'm thinking about my tie-dye shirt, my shorts, my do-rag, my thick beard, and my Wisconsin license plate. And this fog at midnight as I'm checking in, and that was one of the most fitful sleeps I've ever had. There could be a burning cross outside my room. And burning crosses were actually very much in the news, as whether or not the right to burn a cross was discussed before the Supreme Court. RAV versus Minnesota, or it's called the RAV case. That's right. Do you have a constitutional right to burn a cross outside somebody's apartment? So, maybe want to look that one up. And that's where Forrest was. We started up the Klan. So I've written numerous columns in support of anyone who wanted to take down Nathan Bedford Forrest's name. Like anytime I'd hear about it in the news, and I used to write for Southern Political Report, I'd write something in support of the people who wanted to remove Forrest's name. Not just for the Klan. Did y'all catch the other thing I may have mentioned? Oh, during the Civil War, he was a war criminal. Did y'all catch that? Look up massacre at Fort Pillow. Fort Pillow was a small fort, and it was on the Mississippi River. This is after the North had captured all the Mississippi River. They set up a fort just to kind of make sure the Mississippi River would be safe. They had, the entire fort was made up of USCT. Y'all know what USCT is? It's called U.S. Colored Troops. We didn't integrate the military until after World War II, by the way. So if you were African American, you fought in a separate unit from whites. Yeah, units were segregated. Although sometimes when fighting is breaking out, I mean, you know, you're with whoever you are. As they say, there are no atheists in foxholes. There aren't also a lot of racists when push comes to shove. So after that, and Harry Truman himself, who had served in World War I, recognized that segregating our military was a stupid idea, and so he integrated. This is a year before baseball integrated, by the way, in 1947. So the military was integrated in 1946. Now, you couldn't have black officers, you could have junior officers, but the leaders of the group were white Tennesseans who fought on the side of the North, because not everybody in Tennessee wanted to secede. Over in West Tennessee, there was a lot more sympathy for the North. After all, Vice President in 1864 was Andrew Johnson, who was a white Tennessean, a senator who refused to secede. Lincoln put him on the ticket as a show of unity. He was a Democrat, but he had a Republican and Democrat ticket in 1864. Forrest's group, they had a much larger force, so they overwhelmed the small fort. And as most people pointed out, everybody in the fort was massacred. USCT, U.S. colored troops, and their white officers were massacred, all killed. Because under a flag of truce, while they were discussing surrender terms, the Confederates moved into a better position and then suddenly attacked. And to save bullets, most of the blacks were clubbed to death or bayoneted to death, and the white officers were executed by firing squad. Because some people guerrilla fighters issued informal orders that if you were a white officer leading blacks, you were, It was a bad idea to surrender, basically. You weren't going to be taken prisoner. And this is around the time of, geez, Sherman is burning his way through the Sound. So both sides are committing war crimes. The first column I ever wrote was in response to a historian who claimed that General Sherman wasn't such a bad guy. It was a lead story, his book that came out. And I condemned the hell out of that book. And I wrote about all the war crimes that Sherman did. Not just to Southerners, but if you want to look at why Native Americans were being massacred in the West, it didn't used to be that way. Not until Sherman was put in charge. He decided basically on a final solution. And if you read Hitler's Mein Kampf, which my daughter learned, she's researching banned books, Mein Kampf is not banned in the United States. Is it banned in Germany? It's banned in Germany, but not in the United States. But I mean, Huckleberry Finn is banned. So I did some, and so I've written plenty of columns, just saying that everyone should change the name from Nathan Bedford Forrest. Even condemning being allowed to name your license in Mississippi, like a special Mississippi plate honoring Forrest, written about in Florida, written about in Tennessee, all over. What did I conclude this time? Did you all see it? I decided to look a little more at the founding of the Klan. Did y'all catch it? Take a look. I might work in an extra credit because all I found is I needed to do a little more research on that subject. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you still agree. It's not a standard to pass the class if I agree with it. So, according to the Freakonomics folks, what is the real power behind the Klan? Information. What do you mean by that? Information. By the way, what's the name of that movie? I think it got nominated for some awards. It's called Django.
Yeah, Django
Unchained. I wasn't going to see the film, but a friend of mine from Hollywood sent me a little clip of that scene where they had the Klan showing up. Have y'all seen that?
Yeah.
That still remains one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a movie. So I thought, okay, Mike, I'll go see the film. If you haven't seen it, look up KKK Django Unchained. If you haven't seen that. If somebody finds the YouTube clip, link it to me and I'll play it in class on Friday. Well, think about it. What is this role of information then? And yes, this scene does involve something like that.
I really hope they're actually.
How is information power?
Because the person who knows more can do with the information.
Okay. What's the relationship of the Klan to information? Maybe this is not as clear. The what?
Well, like, Stetson, he went in and he, like, any secret information or their secret handshake or whatever they did, he just, like, let that be common knowledge instead of letting it just be theirs.
So how is information power? Excellent. That's the good answer to the follow-up question. But how did the Klan have power via information? Okay. But think about, who is this person? Anybody know? Well, it's a KKK member. Do you know who it is? Nobody knows who it is. That's the power of secrecy. You wouldn't know who was in the Klan and who wasn't. And the Klan's a terrorist group. Terrorists succeed pretty well when they look like everybody else.
So that was a real power behind the Klan.
You wouldn't know who was in the Klan and who wasn't. That's why they weren't out and open. That's why they had the little eye holes. That's why they had the, just like the Harry Potter, you don't know who's a Death Eater and who isn't. Right? That's how terrorists get power. Right now, you could have 2 or 3 people trying to come into this country. Out of everyone, the millions who are coming in as tourists or students or going in, coming out, business, and you don't know who they are. I know we have presidents who can't go, we'll ask them a lot of questions. Yeah, that's one of the power of a terror group is you don't know who they are. They could strike, they could be anyone. They could strike at any time, any place. They had a very intricate set of rules. It's a secret society. Not everyone could join. You'd have to know somebody to get in. And they just wouldn't take anybody because they didn't want to be infiltrated. That secrecy was a power. When you see them, when they would march down the street in LaGrange, the Klan used to do that, you wouldn't know who was Klan or not. Could that be a neighbor? Could that be a police officer? Could that be a sheriff's deputy? Could that be a LaGrange College professor? Could that be the mayor? Could that be the city council? You didn't know. That's why you'd be marching in broad daylight, or else at night you'd show up and you've got like a burning cross and you've got like a lot of people. That's pretty intimidating. You don't know who they are. And so yes, that's who Stetson Kennedy was, a guy from North Florida. And he wanted to take him down. What did he try the first time? What did he do? What did Stetson Kennedy do? What was his day job? Anybody catch this? He was a newspaper person. He wrote all kinds of editorials condemning the Klan. Did it work? People were too afraid. So what did he do next? Well,
He kind of went undercover.
yeah, so he did. He figured out all their stuff, and then he published all their secrets. And then he went to Hollywood and he gave them a bunch of things.
He would give it to the radio show. The radio show would announce it.
And they would like tell all their secrets. You could find out who was in it. You could like anonymously publish lists of who was in the Klan. We had a very conservative pastor at First United Methodist Church, but had very little use for the Klan. He told the story once in the South of the Klan was marching, and the dog was barking and barking and kind of going right up next to his master. And everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, it's old Doc Johnson. I guess he's in the Klan." And the dogs look around and they go, "Come on, come on." Everybody started laughing. They're like, "Hey, Bob, just take off your mask. We know who you are. Your dog is running around." It showed how ridiculous.
Did Stetson Kennedy join the Klan in order to take?
Yeah, so he joined undercover, probably under an alias. But yeah, he sent all this, and then he sent it over. Believe it or not, there was a guy, did y'all know this? Comic books were almost banned in the United States. In the 1950s, they had a guy who basically condemned comic books as leading to violence. Anybody here a video game player?
A little bit.
Go ahead, don't raise it. No, I don't have to hide. Go ahead. Play any video games? Anybody ever told you that video games lead to violence?
Yep.
Anybody heard that argument?
Yeah, my mom said it.
Yeah, my mom says it all the time.
Yeah.
She doesn't like Call of Duty.
Yep.
She didn't like what?
Call of Duty.
Oh, I think he's in college. I was going to say. Your secret's safe with us. What was the name of the game you said again?
Call of Duty.
Have y'all ever seen the remake of Red Dawn?
Yeah.
The 2000 version. My favorite line in there is everyone's talking about all the stuff they missed, and one guy goes, "I miss Call of Duty 4." Remember that?
Yeah.
And what does his buddy say?
I can't remember his name now.
It's like, "Dude, we're living Call of Duty 4, and it sucks." Because that's what it is. Instead of being able to like go pause and go over and get yourself a Coke Zero, I mean, you know, and a couple Ruffles potato chips. No, you have to maintain that position, and it hurts when the bullet hits you.
We played search and destroy all the time.
But people used to treat, in this country, people treated comic books as indicators of violence the way all of you gamers are treated today. Because the next mass shooting that occurs, the first variable they're going to look for, even before mental illness, in some cases even before gun availability, are video games. Did the person play any video game? Yeah, he played Pac-Man. My kids all laughed because we were watching TV and the commercial came on. The person said, "This is proof that this drug works." And I said, "Seriously, I would love to be in charge of the consumer, what is it, CPA, Consumer Protection Authority, and I would ban people from using proof unless they can actually prove it, because otherwise they're kind of lying to you. They can find general tendencies. Just say what your drug does. Don't make up something." Yeah, I would be so hated by a couple of groups. But seriously, I was like, that study isn't proof. Very few medical studies have. Certain scientific laws offer proof. This is not a scientific law that Propecia does something for you. But yeah, comic books were almost banned in this country in the 1950s. They came this close because a guy did a study and he said, you know what? He would go to prisons and he was like a psychologist. He found that prisoners decided to read, they were reading comic books. They weren't reading like War and Peace. And so he said, therefore, that is causation. Prisoners, violent people, will read comic books. So yeah, he got to testify before the US House. He testified before the Senate. They were drafting legislation to ban all comic books. Anybody here read comic books? Or see comic book movies like Avengers, Superman, Batman, Marvel, all that stuff? Yeah, they were this close to being banned in this country. People said, well, this is proof. The same way anyone who plays a video game, whether you're just an AK-47 purchase away from being a domestic terrorist.
How did they not get banned?
Anybody here have a comic book on them? Do you have one with you?
No.
Yeah, go ahead. If you bring one, take a look. You may not see it because they've gotten smaller every year. They used to have to be a lot bigger. You'll see a tiny little section of it. And it's a comic book authority. Basically, the comic books first treated the guy like a joke. There's a great, you can see an interview with Stan Lee where he was like saying, this guy the psychologist was a huckster. He was just trying to get in the newspapers. He was trying to get a lot of attention. He wanted to sell a lot of books condemning comic books. But eventually the comic book companies like DC, Marvel, all them, they realized all of a sudden, oh crap, we're about ready to go out of business. So they banded together, they went to the Senate and the House, the lawmakers, and they said, let us have a chance to regulate ourselves. And so every comic book had to be sold with the comic book authority. And this comic book authority would view every comic, and they had to follow the code of comics, which was superheroes couldn't be evil. Law enforcement was always good. You can look online to see all the things comic books had to do. You know, criminals had to be punished in every story. It came out in the 1950s, folks. Yeah, nice choice, Andy. That's Deadpool, isn't it?
Yeah.
You should look to see if Deadpool had something on it. But yeah, Deadpool from the 1950s would have been banned. There were a lot of comics that were considered too violent, where the superheroes were a little multi-dimensional.
Okay, Deadpool's our superhero.
He's an anti-hero. But Deadpool would have to lose every single time. He would, I don't know, have to die.
Can't do it.
Most people didn't know, of course most people don't know as much about Deadpool. You all know about Deadpool and others don't, because when I kept telling him, I was like, we gotta go see Deadpool when it comes out. And my brother-in-law's like, oh, superhero movie, great, we can take the kids. And I was like, no, that is a really bad idea. They're like, all right, we'll have to pay to get a sitter. I was like, this is a good idea. It's funny as hell. Didn't it just come out on HBO this weekend?
Yeah,
Yeah. But you can look, nowadays, comic books are going back to the way they used to be before the 19, back to the 30s and 40s. They're a little more freewheeling. The comic book authority thing got a little smaller. It's not the news. Nobody's talking about banning comics. They're all talking about how Avengers made $3 billion in the first movie. So they're not in as much danger. So that's why you see Deadpool today. But we're never that far away from seeing something that we take for granted going on the top of the block. Call of Duty 4. What do y'all play? Let me go. Which one?
2K
Oh,
Live.
Madden 2K. Okay. Which one? Isn't that the one where you get on the front cover of Madden and you have a really bad season?
Yeah, the Madden curse.
You still put Jordan Nelson? Oh, damn, they put Jordan. Oh, he's injured. The Madden curse. What other games do y'all play?
That's about it.
Which one?
Second.
Nobody does Warcraft, or is that like so
I
2000?
would love it, but for PC.
I watched the Warcraft movie. Is that any indicator? Does that give me an idea how to play the game? The kids loved it. Yeah, the lesson learned is about information and power. I've got a question for you. Got a question for you. So I've got like a minute or two. All right, a couple things to point out. I'm sorry, I have to see this. I may be going to my first Auburn game. Any Auburn fans out there? Just one? Okay, here's that storyteller, I promise. 7 p.m., Cuban-American storyteller. And that's at Dixon Assembly Room at 7 o'clock. So if you want to go, go ahead and see her. We're also showing over here in the auditorium the movie 7 Days in May, about an attempt to overthrow the U.S. government. It was a film that was done in the early 60s, called 7 Days in May. So you got two good CE options. But if you're interested in storytelling, definitely go see her tonight. If you want to work in something into your paper, get a couple of quotes, ask her a question or two that would fit your paper. This is your opportunity. Also, they're having a bit of storytelling at Hills and Dales on Sunday at 2 o'clock. And I'll provide you that information. Got a question for you. If we were to play a game on Friday, how many of you would be able to watch the film, the next film, on your own? If I provide you the link. Anybody up for a Friday game?
Yeah.
And it's about the power of information?
Yeah.
You've already played it, so you already know it. But game time on Friday. So we can all be here?
Yeah.
All right. And don't forget, I emailed everybody the paper assignment. It looks like... Looks like this. Here we go. Also pay attention, the only change I made in the rubric is to make it longer, but all of this lists all the points that I made verbally to you.
That's for paper 2?
This is for paper 2. So how to add on to your paper. Everything I mentioned about connecting it to storytelling, connecting it to class readings, connecting it to analytical modeling, developing the testable hypothesis, and actually test it. It's kind of like a Venn diagram. Like a third of you did storytelling, a third of you did, connected it to the readings, a third of you did, tried something with the analytical model, but nobody did all three. I think one or two did 2 of the 3. All right. So you got a question?
Paris and I will be at the Georgia.
You start though. Work stuff. Okay. Just came on out. But anything you do, just bill it. Just carry it over to the next building. All right, sure. Your gonna be where?
Kadarius and I will be at the Georgia Theater Conference on